Hi, everyone. Welcome to Austin. I'm Katie Carr, Chief Revenue Officer for Swoop, and I am incredibly excited to be here today with the one and only Andrea Palmer to talk a little bit about why health is relevant to all marketers.
Absolutely.
I'm going to introduce Andrea for a second. So, Andrea has been a media industry trailblazer for more than 20 years, pioneering innovative strategies that have since become standard practices in healthcare marketing. Her ability to catalyze change in a complex and highly regulated industry, paired with an intimate knowledge of healthcare business models and the ability to navigate the industry's complex path to sale, have been critical in establishing sterling reputation for holistic client delivery and media and innovation. Andrea brings great depth of experience, having managed cross-functional agency strategy and activation teams, as well as significant holding company level integrations, all with the goal of delivering best-in-class integrated media and content solutions for some of the largest healthcare brands. Her expertise spans pharma, OTC, medical device, technology, healthcare, service brands, as well as enterprise-level businesses. In July 2019, the launch of PHM Healthfront, a first of its kind, she launched, is the first of its kind two-day media upfront designed to explore the frontiers of healthcare and foster connections between brands and consumers. The Healthfront is a masterstroke of Andrea's, bringing together industry leaders, technology, media, and content with over 500 attendees, and I heard there's 600 this year.
What I hear.
And you close the door, so if you're not going, you don't get a ticket. We'll be very happy to be there this year. And it's really first to market opportunities across health and wellness. So welcome, Andrea. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, in an industry that is dominated by data and technology, and also a lot of regulation, health marketers today are really faced with some unique challenges. From your perspective, what are some of the unique challenges that healthcare marketers are faced that other industries really do not face?
I think there's a lot of realities of healthcare marketing. The first of which, if we're looking at it from a pharmaceutical manufacturer's vantage point, healthcare is when you have a disease or when you get a diagnosis, it's the club you never asked to join.
Right.
So nobody wants to be facing a diagnosis of breast cancer. Nobody wants to have asthma or COPD. Nobody
Right.
wants to join these communities, but all of a sudden, you're in this community that you never asked to join, and you're being asked to have a relationship with something that you don't really want to have a relationship with. So, the biggest thing that healthcare marketers are gonna be faced with is how to relate to and be a part of a consumer's day-to-day life, and something that people are going to opt into on a regular basis because they don't want to engage with that. They're not defined by the condition that
Right.
they have. It is a very small, very unwelcome, almost always, part of their life, and it's something that they are kind of having to deal with versus something that they're choosing to deal with. In almost every other marketer's case, they're trying to find people that are going to choose to have a relationship with them long term.
Yeah.
Whether that's a restaurant or retail services or brick and mortar brand or any other kind of consumer packaged product. People are buying things because they like them. People are going to they're traveling on their preferred airline. They're staying in a preferred hotel chain. But people aren't. It's really hard to get people to want to have a relationship with the pharmaceutical company. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second part is it's incredibly personal, but even the biggest categories that we're dealing with are dealing with a finite number of people, fortunately. But you're dealing with these very small populations of people, and it can be really hard to find people that look like them.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't have friends that also have psoriasis, right? You have psoriasis, and you might not know anyone else who has psoriasis.
Right.
So people are looking for experience outside of people that they know. know, almost every case. So there's just a lot of those realities that make it really hard to be to relate to, and really hard to get an active participation from the patient community.
Yeah, very well said. Diagnosis is not something that you choose, right?
Not at all.
So I've heard you say health is the most human thing. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's the most human thing because there's nothing more personal than what's going on in your mind and body, and there's nothing more personal than your healthcare experience. The way you in many cases it's very private and it's very personal, but there's nothing that is more uniquely you than your own health. So it's incredibly human. But what I think is the irony in that is healthcare advertising is not very human. and truthfully, right? It's like it's the most human category, but it's the least human marketing materials. So has anyone ever watched, if you've ever turned on a TV, you've seen a pharma ad. In fact, I would guarantee if anyone turned on a television right now, if there's an ad block, it's pharma. But there's nothing about a pharma TV spot that's human at all.
Right.
They all look exactly the same. And I'm in the industry, so I'm like putting myself out of a job right now, but they all look really similar. They're all, people doing activities and they're telling you to ask your doctor about the next product or whatever. But they're just, it's not a very human way to approach a condition, even though it's so deeply personal what somebody's going to be going through.
So how does that change the way that you approach pharmaceutical marketing?
I mean, I think what it means is you really have to think about marketing versus advertising and communications versus advertising. Whereas we might all be in media and about, trying to find the right patient populations and targeting and segmentation and all that stuff. But the other side of the coin is how you use that to be the entry point, but how that actually leads into a way that you can, what is the way that you can relate to someone in a human way? How can you be a communications supporter or brand in a category that's not super welcomed? And when the assets that you have, and that's incredibly tactical, but the assets that you have to play with and the ways that you can engage are kind of one-sided.
Right. I think I heard you say, within a 60-second spot, would be difficult to tell someone everything that they need to hear, right?
It's impossible, especially when 40 of the 60 seconds is the safety information, right? So you really have 20 to 30 seconds at most to actually get a message across. So it's just not going to do the heavy lifting. So in order for there to be an impact, there has to be much more downstream and much more information out there and much more, just much more to the relationship and the conversation. Otherwise, you're relying on an incredibly finite, impersonal message to get someone to take a very personal step and decision in their healthcare.
Yeah. So over 30% of data today is healthcare related. How does your team identify what's the most valuable data, and also how to take that information and make it actionable? Yeah.
So it's so interesting because the industry for a long time has always been about how to get data and how to find data and owning data and buying data and renting data and data. But there's no shortage of data. If 30% of every single data point in the world is a healthcare data point, we don't lack data, but we lack the way to use it. So something that can it's not always the easiest thing to know what to do with it after you have it. So I think that the value comes through when people are able to, and when our teams do, is it becomes about not only using data to identify audiences up front. That's a very small part of using data, strategically. And it's certainly not all about validating on the back end what you did with something and whether or not it performed well. That's also, that's an even smaller part of data strategy, but understanding throughout the course of the campaign, what can we learn, what can we know, what did we do well, who was responsive, why were they responsive, what were they responsive to, and alternatively, what they weren't responsive to, and who wasn't responsive, and the different types of, you have to continue to evolve. I said something this morning, and I say this all the time, a media plan or a marketing strategy is a hypothesis, and you're constantly testing hypotheses. And that is what data strategy is, and having an abundance of those data points makes it easier to get some great insights out of it, but it also means it's a lot of work, and it's constant work, and it's not a one-time thing or a two-time thing. It's an ongoing, iterative thing that you have to be willing to kind of dig into.
How do you make impactful, let's say, connections with consumers in this industry that is so highly regulated?
That's the biggest challenge that we're faced with every day. So you're in a regulated industry, so not only from a channel perspective or a tactical perspective, and we talked about how the assets that we have are fairly impersonal, but we're trying to find ways to connect through different technologies, through different platforms, through different spaces. We're trying to lean into the things that people want to and will gravitate towards naturally. So things like, how do you use an influencer that's going to, how do you use influencer communities? How do you use social in ways that feel authentic? How do you use patient communities? I know, Swoop recently bought My Health Teams, which is a great move, just in terms of understanding where people don't have natural communities in their lives, they can have, patient communities to turn to in their digital lives. So how do you use those types of environments to create greater connections? And those are really powerful ways that you can go beyond what I would consider just pure flat advertising and start to build trust. Because you're also playing the long game in healthcare. You're like, these journeys can be 6 months, a year, 3 years, 8 years in some cases. So you're not doing something, turning the spigot on and turning the spigot off. You have to create trust and relationships that are long term, and they can be an incredibly long term, and they can be constantly evolving. So something that might work for somebody today might not be relevant to them 6 months from now, which is the other reason we always say data gets old. So if I'm buying a data set or I'm using a data set that's from a year ago, that patient's already on a therapy, hopefully. That patient's already, in treatment, ideally. Whether or not they're compliant, whether or not it's working, that's further something that we can learn from that data. But it's not that simple. So being able to treat those insights as real time as they come, and to be kind of responsive to that constant evolution in someone's healthcare journey. Those are the types of things those digital communities can help us do, is not understand whether or not somebody has the diagnostic markers that make them eligible, but whether or not somebody is in play, what they're looking for, if they need support with symptoms, if they need support with treatments, if they need support with birth control. Yikes. But it just helps to understand not only that somebody is in a community, but where they are in that journey.
Okay. How do you see AI and analytics, advanced analytics, playing into the decisions that you make for pharma and healthcare?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot happening in that space. I think where you can, where AI can really play a role is speed, first and foremost. The speed of understanding and bringing together a lot of disparate data sets and a lot of different insights and data points, but speed of understanding, because as I said, somebody's journey is unfolding in real time, and it's not waiting for marketing to catch up. Somebody's journey is unfolding every minute of every day, right? So AI can help with speed. AI can also help with predictability. So a lot of the data sets can help triangulate and know a prospect in a future state, and patients that are most likely to, and providers that are most likely to, and AI can help us learn before they've done the thing that we're going to want. They can help us know that we might do the thing that we might want to be interested in.
We talk about that a lot lot at Swoop. How do we get further in conversations with clients before that action actually takes place? So we can convince a client and talk to their provider about why to stay on script or why they should ask about this diagnosis. So it's incredibly powerful. Can you share an example of a campaign strategy that was successful for you that went beyond just the data?
I think the most successful campaigns they have to be a mix. They can't just be data-driven advertising. Mm-hmm. There's a very big difference between doing something that's data-driven advertising and something that really takes the whole person into account. So what are the key questions? Whoa. Birds.
All sorts of things happening.
falling backgrounds. Good day. But pulling together like the entirety of the marketing continuum. So all the channels working together, all the using the power of the community, using the power of marketing messaging, using the power of content, and being a really well-rounded campaign. So I think some of the best campaigns that I've deployed have all of those tenets, and they lean into content, they lean into personalization, they resonate with the community in different ways. I mean, there's nothing better than when you get I think of some campaigns for like FEVE in the HIV space where we were getting emails from patients in the community that said, "You really understand me, and you like this is clear that you built this for me, and I did this because I, felt like you really understood me as a person, not just a patient." And that was, I think, that's really fascinating, and that's when we know we've done our job, right? Knowing someone as a person, not just a patient.
I love that. Looking to the future, how do you envision the evolution of healthcare marketing?
It's it's a great question, and I always say it's kind of what makes my job the best job, because I've never had the same job 2 years in a row or 3 years in a row. Yeah, it's always changing, and every year we put out a piece that talks about where the biggest levers are that are changing the quickest. It's called the healthcare disruptors, and I think this year what we're focused on, the landscape's changing, the supply chain's changing, the advent of telemedicine several years back was a big change now, but if you look at how far that's come in only, call it 5 or 6 years since it hit sort of maturity, that's changing the entirety of how patients can access care overall. So things like that are making medicine more modern, and making accessing medicine and accessing healthcare information look a little bit more like retail, which I think is helpful. I think it's also contemporary because people's expectations are set well outside of healthcare and certainly outside of pharmaceuticals. So when we can learn from other industries and do things that are not in the traditional playbook of pharma, that's when we're being most successful, I think. So healthcare marketing is about, and the future of healthcare marketing is all about how we can see sort of where the puck is going, be able to look at all of the things that are changing our industry, that are changing industries around us. I mentioned the digital pharmacy. I've mentioned how AI is playing into things. AI is changing, the triage of the digital experience. So everything used to start with a Google search that would lead you into an online journey where you were reading everything under the sun that's been curated by, really brilliant digital editors that have gone out and covered all of these categories, and now the AI, 50% of the searches are shown right on the first page of Google in the AI search results. So that's inherently going to change. It's inherently going to change the entirety of the journey, right? So 50% of the people that used to take a digital journey aren't even getting there because they're getting their answers in that moment in time on the Google homepage. That might be the end of our opportunity to engage them. So we have to be constantly changing and constantly evolving, and I think that's really fun. And how we do that looking forward, I think, is who knows what's going to be next. But there's always something new going on for us to monitor and to think creatively about how to take advantage.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Andrea. This has been very insightful.
Thank you.
And we love your hat, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Austin trip.
I like our matching hats. Thank you.
Thank you.